This is one tale that proves real life is far grander and more heartbreaking than any fairy tale. Dürrüşehvar wasn't just a princess of one land. She was a princess of an empire that vanished, and a queen of a kingdom that was destined to fall. Her life began amidst the fading echoes of the greatest empire on earth and ended in the quiet drizzle of a London afternoon. In a grand palace on the shores of Istanbul, the Kamlika Palace, on January 26, 1914, a baby girl named Hadisi Hayrai Dürrüşehvar Sultan drew her first breath. Her father was a man of art and gentle soul, Abdülmecid II, who would become the very last caliph of the Ottoman Empire. Her name, Dürrüşehvar, meant the pearl worthy of kings, and never was a child so perfectly named. But her fairy tale beginning was to be a short one. When she was just 10 years old, the world her family had known for 6 centuries came crashing down. The caliphate was abolished. One night in 1924, the family was told they had to leave Turkey forever. Just like that. They boarded the Orient Express, watching the minarets of Istanbul fade into the distance, and settled into a life of exile in the quiet city of Nice, France. They were royalty, but they were poor. The family survived thanks to the kindness of a faraway king who was the richest man in the world at that time. He was the Nizam of Hyderabad, Mir Osman Ali Khan. He sent a generous pension to the fallen caliph, a gesture of respect that would change the princess's life forever. As Dürrüşehvar grew, she blossomed. She was a beauty, tall, with auburn hair and a clear, fair complexion, and a famous aquiline nose that reminded people of the Sultan who conquered Constantinople. Suitors came from all corners. The Shah of Persia wanted her for his son, as did the King of Egypt. They all offered her crowns, but her father had other plans. He remembered the kindness of the Nizam of Hyderabad. An arrangement was made. The Pearl of the Ottomans would marry Prince Azam Jah, the Nizam's eldest son and heir. It was a union meant to merge two great Muslim dynasties, the fallen caliphate with the world's richest throne. The wedding in 1931 on the French Riviera was a spectacle straight out of A Thousand and One Nights. The papers called it just that. There were two princes from India and two Ottoman princesses, Dürrüşehvar and her cousin Nilüfer. As they set sail for their new home in India, they were even taught how to wear saris on board the ship. And guess who else was on that very same ship? A small, quiet man in a simple loincloth, returning from a conference in London, Mahatma Gandhi. Yes, the princess met the man who was fighting for India's freedom on her way to marry its richest prince. When she arrived in Hyderabad, her father-in-law, the Nizam, was utterly charmed. He adored her. He called her his Nagina, meaning his precious gemstone. He had a wonderful sense of humor, and he used to love pointing out at grand parties how much taller his new, regal daughter-in-law was than his son. He gave her the freedom to do what she wished, and she did not waste it. While many women of the time lived behind the veil, in strict purdah, Dürrüşehvar saw a different world. She had been raised by a forward-thinking father who believed in women's education. In Hyderabad, she became a force of nature. She learned fluent Urdu and told the women of the city, "Hyderabad is now my home. I identify myself with all your hopes and interests." And she meant it. She didn't just host parties. She built a future. She laid the foundation stone for the city's first airport terminal, and she was the first woman in history to do so. She established a massive general hospital and a junior college for girls that still stand today. With her cousin Nilüfer, They transformed Hyderabad's social life, inviting both men and women to events together, gently nudging aside centuries of tradition. They played tennis, they rode horses, they drove cars. She was, in every sense, a modern queen, a queen's quiet strength and sorrow. But behind the glittering public life, her own fairy tale had shadows. Her husband, Prince Azam Jah, was not a faithful prince. He had a wandering eye and a palace full of concubines. Dürrüşehvar, however, carried herself with a regal dignity that silenced all whispers. She knew her worth. She poured all her love and ambition into her two sons, Mukarram Jah and Mufakkam Jah, ensuring they received the best education in the world. And her wisdom was rewarded by her father-in-law, the Nizam, who saw the weakness in his own son and, in a stunning decision, bypassed him to declare Dürrüşehvar's eldest son his direct heir. There were other sorrows. When her beloved father, the last caliph, died in 1944, she tried for years to have him buried in his homeland of Turkey. The government refused, and that was a wound that never fully healed for her. It was a pain so deep that she herself later chose to be buried not in the soil of her birth, but far away in London. Her marriage finally ended in 1954, and the kingdom of Hyderabad itself had been absorbed into a new, independent India. She, who had once been the bridge between empires, now lived a quiet life in London. She was still a princess, still regal, her commanding figure and handsome features never leaving her. A British writer once said of her, "No one could ignore her or slight her. If fate had so willed, she might have been one of the great queens of the world." She passed away in 2006 at the age of 92. She had lived through world wars, the fall of two great kingdoms, and the transformation of the entire world. She was the last echo of the Ottoman Caliphate and the brightest jewel of Hyderabad's final golden age. A princess isn't just about glittering tiaras. It's about grace in exile, strength in a strange land, and the will to build a better world for others. That was Dürrüşehvar, the pearl, the gem, the queen who should have been.